Hey guys, before we get into the episode today, I really want to shout out my Facebook group, Tax Strategies for Real Estate Investors. So we have over 5,000 real estate investors in this group from all walks of life. We have long-term rentals, multifamily, mid-term rentals, short-term rentals, commercial properties, syndications, and everything in between. We have people that are co-hosting in there. We have people that are property managing in there. So make sure to join today because we talk about all sorts of things between tax strategies and real estate management, portfolio management, and absolutely everything you can imagine. So if you have questions for me, this is the easiest way to get access to me is to join this group and ask your question. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hey, welcome back to the Learn Like a CPA show. Today we're going to be talking about current trends, current updates. We're going to do some headline news stuff today. So dive right in with us. Today we're going to talk about article CNBC says home prices suddenly jump after several months of declines. And so in this article, actually, CNBC states that is because of the tick down in mortgage rates in December and January. So this makes a lot of sense, right? So there's typically an inverse correlation between mortgage rate or more interest rates going up and the prices of property going down, right? Because the higher interest rate, the more the cost of borrowing is, and then the less amount of buyer pool that's actually able to afford something. So it's not surprising that the interest rates did tick down for most loans, like conventional and I know like Fannie Freddie type loans in December and January, and so that leads to an uptick in home prices, right? One of the things that I've been like paying really close attention to, I would say, is that FHA buyers in certain markets do kind of scare me right about now because FHA is typically 3.5, very low money down. They typically don't have a lot of equity in those properties. And so in certain markets like your Chicago, Memphis, Baltimore, where FHA is very prevalent, and that's the typical style of how people are buying homes there, it really scares me lately because, we don't necessarily know what the economy is going to do and where it's going to go. But if you bought a $300,000 home with, let's say, a 6% FHA loan, and then mortgage interest rates tick up even 1%, every single percent that the interest rate goes up by, you'll typically lose close to 10% of your fair market value of your house. So if I was to buy a $300,000 house and I put 3.5% down, I have $7,000 equity and mortgage rates tick up even 1%. Now my house is only worth $270. So I owe $290 on the loan, but the property is only worth $270. I'm technically underwater. So this is just little notes. Like I think FHA loans right now for first-time home buyers do scare me in certain areas just because of just the instability of interest rates. So, interest rates have gone down, but there's no really telling if they'll go back up because I do believe, I'm not sure about this, but the Fed has said that they don't plan on lowering the Fed funds rates until at least 2024.
How do you think this is going to affect like how easy it is to like buy a property with an FHA loan? Because I know like there were some factors around the 2008 recession too that made it a lot harder to get properties with FHA loans, right?
Yeah, I think with FHA, one of the things that I've been trying to get people to, instead of doing FHA loans, so 3.5% FHA, I've tried to get people to move into the 5% conventional because the 3.5% FHA and the 5% conventional, you can still own or occupy a multifamily residence. But with conventional, the one thing, when you have an FHA loan and you finally get the 20% that's necessary to drop, or 20% equity allows you to drop your PMI, private mortgage insurance, you have to get a appraisal on the house and you have to refinance into a non-FHA loan, so a conventional loan. When you close 5% conventional and your property gets 20% value, all you have to do is order the appraisal and your lender will automatically drop the PMI. And not to mention FHA, in my opinion, I think you should really only do an FHA 3.5% down if you have like really bad credit. I think the minimum credit for FHA is like 630, 640. So I would, going back in time, I always try to bump people up into that 5% conventional if they can.
Yeah. It's not that much extra cash.
No.
And then you'll probably spend that same amount on the refi.
Sure. Yeah, and also too, with FHA, the property, because it's underwritten, the government's involved, so it's a different style loan. The property has to amass certain conditions, and so you can't really have. There's a lot of stuff that I've seen FHA deals get lost on because of the property's conditions. I'm honestly shocked that I bought my first property with an FHA loan, considering everything that was wrong with the property. But yeah, if you up and go conventional, you're gonna have less restrictions on what you're able to buy. So when I was first kind of looking at this little suburb in Illinois, like Lockport, they had properties that were up on some of these properties for that low $250,000 mark. The foundation was held together on screw joists instead of like actual foundation. Uh-huh. And, I would never even be able to close on that with an FHA loan anyway. So it really is, it's kind of a really like a no man's land, because it's like, yeah, you can't afford anything nicer, but even that stuff in that sort of that category pool, it's not even nice to begin with. So it's just really,
it's like, is it even worth getting into?
I would go back. I would do 5% conventional in a heartbeat. Another thing that we kind of saw last year was, I believe it was, and I could be wrong, it was either Chase or US Bank that was doing 0% down loans for minority groups and people of color. Different, disadvantaged communities, whatever have you. I think it's a terrible idea.
How is that legal?
Yeah, just because you have no equity in the property, 0% down. So your loan equals the fair market value of the property. And then again, interest rates tick up, and now your property's worth 20% less than what you have a loan for. If you're trying to get rid of your position there, you owe more than what the house is worth. So.
Yeah. No, it's like getting them into home ownership, but it's actually putting them in a worse financial position than if they were still renting. It
could, and that's what somebody, because I'm not sure if you saw too, but FHA, from my knowledge, they just announced this a few days ago, but they're allowing the option for you to take your 30-year FHA and extend that to 40 years. So you're able to, now this is not a new loan, but it's you can take your existing FHA 30-year loan and extend that to a 40-year. All that's really going to do is just increase the amount of interest that you have to pay. And again, the typical mortgage, and I'm not sure how long this has been backed, but the typical mortgage only lasts 7 to 8 years. And now that doesn't mean people are selling their house within 7 to 8 years, but people are only keeping that original mortgage for 7 or 8 years, which means they're either refinancing money out, or they're selling. And so I just don't see you building wealth when you, especially on a 30-year FHA, where your principal and interest payments are so high, your interest payments so high when you only put 3% down. I don't even think within 7-10 years you're even going to break even. You're probably going to sell that property at a loss, especially if you're doing this 40-year extender.
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez.
Yeah, like if I bought an FHA 3.5% down on a 30-year, and I extend that to 40, and then I go to sell that property in 7 years, I barely think you'll even break even on your equity. You'll be essentially rolling negative equity into your next deal, kind of like how people roll negative equity from a car into a new car.
Yeah.
It's literally rolling it's like you normally don't see it with a house. Yeah. It's crazy.
So this next article here is from Business Insider. It says, call it the great cash out. Almost half of job switchers are making the mistake of cashing out their retirement savings when they go.
Yeah, we saw this a lot in 2020. So for those of you who don't know, so in 2020, the government basically, to help fight the coronavirus and people losing their jobs or getting fired, whatever have you, they took away the typical 10% early withdrawal penalty that people have. So, let's just say I have a regular 401k and, I have $100,000 in there. When I go to pull that money out, before I'm 59 and a half and I go to withdraw that money, I'm paying a 10% penalty on the 100K plus whatever I owe in income tax on it.
Oh, wow.
And so, somebody who's pulling out that full 100K, if they're in a 35% tax bracket, they're paying 10% federal or 10% penalty, 35% federal tax. And even if, like, let's say you're in California, you got 9% state, they're literally paying 54% in taxes to pull out that 100K, right? Now, what the government did in 2020 they said if you had a coronavirus early withdrawal, if you had a reason for the distribution, you don't have to pay the penalty. But the way that they framed it, a lot of people took that as like, hey, you can take out money out of your 401k regardless of your situation. They're going to let everybody take money out. So people took money out when they didn't really need to. And this, in my opinion, this set back people so much because people there, don't get me wrong. There's people that took the money out that absolutely needed it and that, used it to feed their families and bridge the gap between, changes in employment, whatever have you. But there is also a lot of people who use that money for absolutely nothing, and it just set them back so long. So if you really think about it, there's a reason why the government, they only allow you to put so much money into a retirement account per year. They only allow you to fund the thing while you're working, obviously, because they know how powerful getting those tax deductions and earning and growing that tax-deferred wealth is. And so that's why they also penalize you for taking it out early. The penalty's in place to pretty much get people to not withdraw money out of their 401ks because when you turn 60, they want you to have some money. They don't want to have to fund your ass on Social Security all the time. Yeah. So in 2020, I think that was probably the greatest like steal of wealth we've ever seen because the government basically said, hey, we'll let you pull this money out, no penalties. And actually what they allowed you to do is actually spread the income tax liability out over 3 years too. So in that example, if I took out 100K, I had to pay $33,000 in year 1, $33,000 in year 2, and then $33,000 in year 3. I'm able to stretch that tax liability out over 3 years rather than having to pay it all in 1 year. So a lot of people in 2021 and 2022, that kind of bit them in the foot because it's like, hey, do you remember that 100K that you withdrew in 2020? Well, you actually had to pay a third of that back.
Yeah, they didn't plan accordingly.
No, we saw that with tons of clients, unfortunately. Like it wasn't even on their radar. So this, the great cash out, half of job switchers making the mistake of cashing out their retirement savings. That's why it's like so important that you understand how your income is taxed, whether it's income that you make at a day job or retirement income or real estate income, because you literally have to know the tax implications. So I'll give you another example. It's like I have my dad. So my dad's actually retiring next year, and my dad's buddy's retiring this year, and he's like, hey, I'm retiring in October, November. I'm gonna go take out 50 grand on my 401k, and I'm gonna use it to pay off the rest of my house and do all this. So I said, well, no, you're not, because in November, if you go to pull that money out your 401k in November, you've been working a W-2 from January to November. So you've made your 100, 150,000, whatever, and then you're going to pull retirement money on top of that. It's going to be taxed at a higher bracket. Versus if he just waits until January 1st of the following year when he has no W-2 income and he withdraws that 401k, he's going to get taxed half on half of the money. Yeah. He's going to pay half as much in tax rate because he's already at a high tax bracket because of his W-2 job. So these are all the things that unfortunately, people don't consider or think about. There's also a lot of bad actors. So there's tons of people that are like, oh yeah, go take the money out. It's not taxed. It's not penalized. It's not this. But really, anytime you're going to make a lifestyle move like this, like pulling money out of your 401k, I mean, we deal with this all the time of people looking to tap into their retirement accounts to fund their real estate investing. And my typical recommendation to people is, I'm not even going to allow you to look into touching your 401k unless you have a proven track record in the field. If you're telling me, hey, I'm a real estate agent, I already got 4 properties, and I'm looking to take some money out of my 401k to buy real estate, I'm like, okay, let's look at that. Let's see how we could do that very tax efficiently. But if you're somebody who's like, hey, I got $2 million, it's everything I've ever earned in my 401k, and I haven't even bought any real estate yet, and I want to use that money to buy real estate, absolutely not. You have to have a good track record, proven experience in the field before you can, in my opinion, borrow against your future, like this article is talking about.
Yeah. It's really a crazy mindset. Like it says here, the sub headline, it says job switchers who cash out their retirement accounts, they're treating them like bonuses rather than a long-term savings tool. And it's I mean, nobody taught them that, so it's like you can't necessarily blame them. But at the same time, you got to take responsibility at some point and learn how these things work. Learn that The money you put in here, if you leave it in for a long, I mean, you can put a very small amount in for the length of your career, and you got multiple millions of dollars, and like you barely even noticed it on your paycheck.
Yeah, and that's actually that's something that's interesting that's being talked about right now in Congress is they're actually having a bill that is part of what they're basically doing is if you have a large enough company, and I don't know the specifics on it, but if you have a large enough company, let's just assume like maybe like more than 1,000 employees, they're making it so that you automatically have to opt in your employees into contributing to the 401k without them knowing. They purposely have to opt out. And so the amount of people that will actually have some sort of savings based on that because they have to actually opt out is the government's like, hey, if we can get people used to like not like out of sight, out of mind, there will be people that are saving. And so, but it also says here though too, look at this. So of the workers withdrawing from their funds after a job separation, only 27% were fired or laid off. So that's telling me that it's like people aren't even, it's not that they, need the money really to hardship or anything, they only 20% of them were actually fired or laid off and out without income. It seems like people just wanted to take the money out.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, like, after you leave a job, you don't want to just leave the money sitting in the company 401k. Like, you move it into, what's the strategy for that? Like, you move it out of the company 401k, but you're not just cashing it out. Like, there's a transfer process, right?
Yeah, so you have a few options. So I'll just give you an example. This is real life, like what I work with through clients too. You are going to pay the most amount in fees, the most amount in literally fees in a 401k plan. And so, for example, like when I used to work at Deloitte, my cheapest expense ratio for an index fund was it was 0.28%, which meant every single dollar that I invested, basically they were going to take 0.28% of every single dollar. So not like 2%, but like, whatever. That amount of money, let's say my retirement was to amass $2 million. I did the math. I'd be paying like $300,000 or $400,000 just in transaction fees alone on what I would save. When I left Deloitte, I moved all my 401k money to an IRA that I controlled, that my IRA account with Vanguard. And I had Vanguard at Deloitte and I had Vanguard now. But the Vanguard account, the IRA that I have, the expense ratio is 0.04. So it's 7 times less for me to invest my money now in index funds than it was to invest through my employer. And so that's why I always tell people when they're working at a company, you should always contribute to your employer match because it's like really free money. But then after on top of that, we want to be funding like HSAs, Roth IRAs. We want to fund like other accounts because they're typically less fees. And then once you do fund those, then maybe look back to contributing more money into your 401k because that's the most amount of money that the most amount of money you'll pay in fees is into a 401k plan because you have to pay for your company, you have to pay for them, the fund manager, Vanguard, and then Vanguard has these funds that are managed by private equity or that are managed by these operators, and so there's a lot more fees. Now the actual process is again relatively simple, but they try to make it really complex. When you leave your job, what will typically happen is it'll roll over to an IRA. So if you have, for example, if you have all traditional money, it'll roll over within a certain amount of time to a traditional IRA that you're able to control. You're able to invest the money, and then you're able to pay less in fees. Now, what's very interesting is Fidelity did a study, and we've quoted this in a recent in podcast before. Is they looked at from 2000 to it was I want to say it was 1990 to 2020 or something like that, where they did a survey and it basically said that the number one account growth was from people who were dead. So for a 30-year from a 30-year time span, they said the common trait between all the accounts that performed the best were dead people. And literally because these people weren't moving the money out of the account. Like they set it, they literally set it and forgot it.
Yeah.
The second highest earning account over that 30-year span was people who forgot their logins. So dead people and people who forgot their login have the highest amount of earnings in their retirement account. It's not these people that are day trading stocks. It's not these people that are like, buying and selling within their retirement account. It's literally people who died or forgot their password. And that just shows it's like if you set it and you let, inflation, the economy, time value of money do its work, you will have wealth built. And there's the longer your investing period, the odds are of you actually making money increases.
Yeah.
5 years, it's like something like you have a 70% chance, or I think it's like 60% chance of your money on year 5 being more than year 1.
Yeah.
You stretch it out to 10 years, it's more like an 80% chance. You stretch that over 30 years, the only way you're not going to have more money in your account than you contributed after 30 years, China would have to take us over.
Yeah.
Like it would have to be catastrophic.
Well, that applies to like almost any investment, maybe not crypto, but almost any. I mean, you look at real estate too. Like, I was at a meetup sometime last year, and the speaker there said something along the lines of like, time heals almost any mistake in real estate, right? Because you could buy like the worst deal and just get hosed, but if you hold it for 30 years, it's going to be worth more than you bought it.
Yeah.
Now maybe that money would have been better placed somewhere else, but at least you didn't lose money on it now. So if you like, it just whoever's the most patient always wins.
Yeah.
And the funny thing too, with that Fidelity study is like, I guarantee you, the people who are making moves within their accounts, they're selling, buying, like they think they're being smart, right? Mm-hmm. But it just goes to show like nobody's as smart as they think they are.
Yeah, and I mean, even when I spent, at my CPA firm now, we see tons of like brokerage statements from people that are trading stocks and mutual funds, or I mean, especially when at the old firm that I worked at before Deloitte, I mean, I saw hundreds of those 1099s a year. I literally can count on both my hands the amount of people that were actually profitable, like day trading or like, transacting quarterly or whatever. So it just really goes to show it's like you want to build out a plan that says, hey, I got X amount of money per year or X amount of money per month that I'm bringing in. This is how much is going to all these things, and it's any sort of surplus income. This is what I'm going to do with. And it goes back to that like Dave Ramsey type of approach. Like every dollar has an assignment, and I already know exactly what I'm going to do with that before I get it. Because if you don't, then you have this influx of cash, and you're more likely to spend it on probably things that you don't need. So
yeah, absolutely. So the next article here is from Daily Wire. It says majority of Walmart stores are going to be automated within the next 3 years. Partly, it was already a trend before we started seeing like this AI revolution really come to the forefront of kind of national conversation. But, like I think there's a McDonald's. I was telling you about this earlier, actually. There's a McDonald's near me that they replaced their drive-through employees with like a voice system, kind of like when you call like AT&T, and you don't have to dial certain numbers for different options anymore. You just tell it what you need, which is really kind of fascinating, and also makes a lot of sense with minimum wages going up everywhere and stuff like that. Like, it's I heard this story from one of my grandpa's friends. He back in the day they had ushers at the movie theater. It was like a 15, 16-year-old kid making like $3 an hour, and he'd show you to your seat, right?
Yeah.
Well, they don't have that today because they can't afford to pay $15 an hour for a kid to show you to your seat at the movie theater.
Right. They just give you your ticket and point left or right.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Exactly. Dude, you're in theater 4.
Yeah, I think as we see time go on, a lot of companies are obviously understanding that it's like, okay, yeah, we can. What does our customer value the most? And so if I'm going to a McDonald's or a Starbucks, it's like, do I want that relationship with somebody that's handing me my coffee or my food, or like, do I just want the food? And I think for McDonald's, is it Walmart, McDonald's?
Well, this article says Walmart. Yeah.
Yeah, Walmart. I mean, like you look at a Walmart versus a Target, right? I feel like Walmart's like, hey, get your shit, get the hell out, versus a Target is like, how can I, it's like those jokes of like Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just like Walmart knowing, I think it's consumer sentiment, and knowing that it's like people who shop at Walmart, they're not really looking to build relationships here. They're looking for the low cost provider. They're looking for somebody that's got everything, right?
Yeah.
And so they're like, hey, we could probably get away with like having less employees, having no sort of connections. I mean, the Walmart by me, there's 2 big self-checkout bays where they might have 2 or 3 people floating around there, but there's no registers. There might be 2 registers in the whole store. I mean, but back when they had all registers and no self-checkout, there was 30 registers and only 3 of them were open.
Yeah.
So I don't even think I think the thing with companies not having employees or wanting to pay employees, that's been around forever. Yeah. I think they're just now with AI and automation and stuff, they're actually getting around to like, okay, how does this actually work? And does it work? I think at it's actually funny that you brought up McDonald's though, because McDonald's is saying that they're going to open their fully. There's going to be no employees inside of it. No employees cooking food. No employees taking orders. It might have somebody there to like make sure that the machine runs right.
Do you know where they're opening this?
Somewhere near here.
Somewhere in the Chicago area.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So, fully automated McDonald's. Now, here's the thing. Do you think their ice cream machine will still be broken? I think so.
Almost certainly.
The robot's going to be like, hey, the ice cream machine is broke.
Okay, I'm convinced that it's not actually broken and it's just hard to
Here we
make
go.
the
What
ice
is it?
cream or something. Yeah.
Automated drive-through ordering at 10 Chicago restaurants. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so this is just the drive-through though. This is what I was talking about earlier with the voice system.
Okay.
So they've still got employees inside making the food.
Okay.
We got to learn more about this fully automated though McDonald's though.
Yeah. But what does that do to, the nominal, I would say the nominal wage growth of an area, right? So if McDonald's, comes into southwest side Chicago and they say, hey, we're going to not have any more employees here, there's just going to be robots and machines, where are those jobs going to? Are those just to be unemployed people? Are those going to be people that go to other jobs? Like, are they going to level up and get skills that, instead of only making $15 an hour, they're now can get a $25 an hour job? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, that's really hard because I think there's kind of two demographics that tend to work those minimum wage jobs, right? It's either people who can't level up or choose not to level up their skills for some reason, and they just want to cap themselves at that. And then, a lot of times bitch and moan that minimum wage is so low and it's not a quote unquote living wage. Or you've got like high school and college kids, right? So like putting myself in the shoes of the high school and college kids, like that sucks because I had a job ever since I was 15 in high school. And I never had a time when I didn't have a job since then. And like, that was an awesome thing for my just development. I wasn't only around other high school kids. It kind of got me out in the adult world and got me used to like interacting with adults and out of like that bubble of high school. And same for college. Like, I think it's great to like develop work ethic during that time.
Yeah.
So for them, I kind of feel bad for those who just choose not to level up. Like, on the one hand, it's only going to make their situation worse because now they're sitting around at home. And then also I kind of have this theory that it's kind of the way that we're going to, like sneak UBI into the equation and start making that a thing. So we're going to have this entire class of people, all of those people who would otherwise be working those minimum wage or just, kind of lower paying, lower skill jobs, right?
Yeah.
And instead of working those jobs, we're going to automate those and then we'll just pay those people to sit around at home.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be making any more money than they were at their McDonald's job or any less money maybe. But now they're going to be sitting at home doing God knows what. Yeah,
there's definitely some people that, like, let's say whether it's Social Security, disability, whatever, they can earn $2,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Or if you tell them, hey, if you work 40 hours a week, we'll give you $4,000 a month. There are a lot of people that they would rather, hey, I'll just give me my $2,000 a month, I'll live on that, and I don't have to work. Then they could just work 40 hours and make double.
Yeah.
This article actually says too. It says, news occurs as the persistent labor shortages which follow the lockdown-induced recession continue to produce difficulties for public and private entities. There are 9.9 million job openings and 5.9 million unemployed individuals across the economy. So there's an excess of 4 million jobs open and available compared to the 5.9 million of unemployed. So what does that tell you?
Well, as a business owner, you got two options. You can either get more competitive and get better at sourcing talent, and you can, just punt the problem to other business owners where they won't be able to find talent because you're finding and retaining the right people. Mm. That's one strategy. Or you can automate. Mm. And for something like Walmart, like, dude, Walmart can't afford to source the top, like, cream of the crop talent to man their stores. Like, that wouldn't make sense. And so they're left with, hey, we got to automate.
Yeah, so it's saying here, companies in the service industry turn toward automation amid labor shortages. McDonald's recently created a test restaurant in Texas in which customers can use kiosks and a mobile app to pick up their orders from a conveyor belt rather than interacting with customer-facing staff. Chipotle tested a robotic tortilla chip maker in California.
Huh. That sounds like kind of fun to watch. I'd want to see that in action.
Yeah.
See how that works. How are you, like, are you doing anything with this in your business? Is this changing the way that you're building?
Yeah, I think for my business, it's all about. So I listened to a podcast by Alex Ramosi the other day. He talked about the 4 highest value skills that you can have, and I won't go into the skills, but basically he finished every single skill with saying at no incremental cost to you, which meant, if you can develop a product or an app or a software that you can scale that and blast out that to different medium levels, to different media at no incremental cost to you, whether it's time or money, like that's how you're going to be able to amplify your business, get better leads, retain clients that scaling requires no incremental cost to you. Every single time he would say that. So whether that's, providing value to people, right? Through podcasts, through content, through social media, I can film a video, me talking about a deal, and I can film it one time and blast that through social media at, hopefully at no incremental cost to me. So in 2023 moving forward, it's like, because also on the same side, it's, I can film a video one time and it'll buy me back time tenfold, because I could film a video on, a complex topic. And when somebody has that same question, I could say, hey, can you go watch this video? I've already recorded it. Come to me with some more specific questions that you have. And the amount of time I've been able to save, and it's not that I don't want to talk to people on the phone, of course, but I would like to save my time as much as I can so I could really help more people. But it's, hey, go watch this 15-minute video. I've already recorded it. It's going to, answer a lot of the questions that you think you have, and then come to me with your more detailed questions. So that's been an absolute game changer. I think with accounting, finance, technology, tax, the last couple of years is that film it one time and be done with it.
Yeah, that's super smart. Something that I've been doing, and this has been huge for my business, is just kind of tapping into overseas labor markets. Because, you may not be able to find a video editor, for example, for your marketing agency. In the U.S., if you're trying to find that person, hire them full time, like you're going to pay $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
And then you got to be able to pass that cost along to your client. Frankly, with my clients who are putting out content on social media, like that's high volume stuff. It doesn't need to be the most creative, coolest edits. It just needs to be, how do we get this information out there in a way that people can digest it? And, a $60,000 a year editor is way too expensive for that. It doesn't make sense on a business level. And so then tapping into, I hire editors from the Philippines, which is great. I pay them about double the average monthly salary over there. Yeah. And so they're never going to leave me. And they're phenomenal video editors. There's nothing that would make them inferior to a US based video editor.
Sure.
And so it's a win-win for both of us because they're getting paid really, really well, compared
for what they do. Yeah.
Yeah. For the area of the world that they live in. And I'm getting way cheaper labor and, phenomenal quality of work, even though I'm not paying as much.
Right.
So I think that's going to be a big thing you see. Even with VAs, you think of your mechanic shop or your, your local convenience store. I think there's a lot that they could outsource to a remote VA where you don't need to have somebody on site that you're paying $20 an hour. You can have somebody from South America or, Southeast Asia. Those are big remote worker markets, and you pay them $10 an hour.
Yeah.
And that's phenomenal value for them, again, because the standard of the transfer rates of US to their currency is really good, really favorable to them. And then also just the standard of living over there is a lot lower, and so relative to what's around them, they're getting paid really, really well.
Yeah.
Cool. So this next article here says Meta's job cuts are gutting customer service, leaving influencers and businesses with nobody to call. Now, we actually have a story about this from I think late last year, right? You want to tell that story?
Which one?
Where your account got suspended.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot get a hold of anybody at Meta, Instagram. Our account randomly got deactivated actually, so you couldn't even nobody could even look up my account for I think it was 2 or 3 days.
It looked like it was just
it was gone. Like if you search it, and so it's terrible because even if you try to go on Instagram and fill out a form, basically they want you to fill out your name and email, and they'll get back to you. And when they do get back to you, it's like a boilerplate template with fill out some more information, yada. But you'll never find a phone number. There's no customer support to call them. And I mean, Facebook and Instagram are very big companies. You would think that you could at least get on the phone with somebody to try to explain your situation here.
Yeah, no kidding. So recently they just rolled out Meta Verified, which supposedly gets you access to better customer service, which we haven't had to try it yet, thankfully. I just got verified on my account too. Mm-hmm. But if it works well, like that'll be a great thing. I just think it's maybe a little bit problematic that they're making you pay for that.
Yeah, so this is what I think is going to happen too for people. So I think the Meta Verified, what they're actually going to do is, so everybody has a blue check now, right? And if everybody has a blue check, nobody has a blue check, because it's just the same thing. If everybody's a millionaire, no one's a millionaire. But here's what they're going to do. So they're going to let everybody buy their blue checks. Anybody and anybody's grandma can get a blue check. But here's what they're going to do. Then they're going to, after they've sapped all the money out of people, what they're going to do is they're going to do gold checks for the OG verified people. So if you got your check mark because you were a legit like celebrity or athlete, whatever, you're going to have a gold check. And so then it's kind of like the status symbol of the checks anymore. It's like, oh, here's a pool of people who paid for their check, and here's the people who actually got it legit. So that's honestly what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I think
Twitter's already done
Twitter's
that.
already got that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's exactly
it's a little bit different from that. What they've done is they do organizational affiliation.
Yeah.
So like Elon's got a blue check
a
and a Twitter icon next to his name.
Yeah.
Dave Portnoy's got the blue check and the Barstool next to his name. And then also there's like a I think it's a gray check for brands. So if it's not a person, it's a brand. Mm-hmm. You can verify that. I think the thing here is you gotta have the right understanding of what we need the verification system to do.
Yeah.
Like the verification symbol has been a status symbol for a long time. And there's a lot of people.
There's people that paid $5.
There's a lot of people who went and paid 5, 10, 20 grand to get that verification symbol. To pay to get like a fake publication in Forbes and, get all the other credentials that Instagram requires to get verified. Yeah. And those people are in the fetal position on the floor right now crying. And nobody feels bad for them.
But that's what I'm saying. So,
but it doesn't have to be a status symbol. And in my opinion, it shouldn't. That's kind of Elon's thought behind this is like AI has gotten so complex now, it can complete CAPTCHA verification. The verification where it's like select, it's 9 boxes. You got to select all the ones with a motorcycle or something. Yeah. Right. AI can complete that now. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, how do we protect ourselves against it? And the only way to protect ourselves against just AI just flooding social media platforms with spam is to create some barrier of entry that they can't overcome. And right now it seems that a small subscription payment per month is the way to do that.
I mean, for me, if you look at my handle right now, there's 4 Learn Like a CPAs. They just all have little variations. Yeah. But now it's like, okay, that blue check is there. So I'm hoping people are like, okay, this is the real account. These other ones are fake. Yeah. Yeah. But to your point, I think hopefully with this little influx of cash that Meta's getting, that they'll actually pick up their phones or have the option to get, because what they should do is look at an account like mine and say, okay, here's the one that's verified. We need to delete all these other ones. And it should just automatically happen. I shouldn't have to report all these accounts to delete them.
Yeah. Yeah. Their customer service has been lacking for sure. Actually, I know a guy, his name's Spencer Nakamura. I don't know him personally, but I follow him. And he got his account like suspended like a month ago. Mm-hmm. And they took away like some small features, like he's limited in how often he can post, and like certain things like that. I think he can only post like a couple stories a day right now, like very weird things. And he he submitted a request with them, still hasn't heard back. But then like 2 days ago, he reported a spam account that was trying to impersonate him.
Yeah.
And like the next day, he got a response from Meta saying, "Hey, we're not going to block this spam account."
Yeah.
So
No,
not
I get
only are
that
they
all the
not
time.
blocking the spam accounts, but they're like responding to these kind of like bullshit requests that like ultimately don't matter.
Yeah.
But they're not responding to, "Hey, my account's suspended and this is not well deserved. This isn't deserved. Like there's
Right.
no reason it should be suspended." So yeah, hopefully this cash infusion that they just got is massive. It's like something like $600 million in the past like 6 weeks.
Meta, fix your shit, please.
Amen. Cool. Well, hey guys, this is kind of a new format for us. A little more casual, just hanging out, talking about some headlines. I think that was fun. But if you guys like it, let us know in the comments below, or like shoot Ryan a message on Instagram. Learn Like a CPA, Twitter, MySpace.
Yeah, we'll test it out. We'll try it, see if you guys like it.
Yeah.
If not, we don't mean to be offensive or anything. These are just real, unbiased comments that we have. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
till next time.
Peace.